Hi, everyone. I'm that sociology teacher. If you're anything like me, you probably look forward to Halloween all year long. What's not to love? You get to dress up as someone else, eat an irresponsible amount of candy, and watch scary movies. But have you ever stopped to think about how weird Halloween actually is? Think about it. We literally knock on the doors of complete strangers and demand candy. We wear masks, change our identities for a night, and decorate our lawns with fake graveyards. As sociologists, we have to look past the fun-sized candy bars to ask, why do we do this? Today, we're unpacking the sociology of Halloween, from its ancient roots to modern controversies like cultural appropriation, heavily gendered costumes, and the global impact of the fast fashion industry. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about where all this came from. Halloween isn't just something invented by candy companies to make a profit. Its traditions are a perfect example of cultural transmission. Over 2,000 years ago, the ancient Celts celebrated a festival called Samhain. They believed that on the night of October 31st, the boundary between the living and the dead became blurred, and ghosts could return to Earth. To avoid being recognized by these spirits, people would wear masks and disguises when they left their homes. When Christianity spread, the church turned November 1st into All Saints' Day, and the night before became All Hallows' Eve, which eventually rolled into Halloween. The tradition of trick-or-treating actually comes from an old practice called souling, where poor people would go door to door offering prayers for the dead in exchange for small cakes. So every time you put on a costume or grab a pillowcase for candy, you're participating in a ritual that has evolved over thousands of years. But let's fast forward to high school today, because Halloween looks a lot different now. One major concept sociologists study during Halloween is identity and social roles. Normally, society has strict rules about how you're supposed to act, dress, and behave. But Halloween acts as a temporary safe space where those rules are suspended. You can be a hero, a villain, a literal inanimate object like a giant taco, or someone totally outside your daily reality. However, this freedom of expression opens up a major sociological debate: the difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. Cultural appropriation happens when members of a dominant culture take elements from a marginalized culture and use them out of context, often turning deeply meaningful traditions into a cheap joke or a costume. Think about it this way. Dressing up as a fictional character like Spider-Man or a wizard is appreciation and fun. But dressing up in an indigenous headdress, a traditional Mexican poncho and mustache, or a geisha outfit turns someone's actual culture, history, and identity into a 24-hour party prop. Sociologists point out that while you can take the costume off at the end of the night, the people from those cultures still have to live with the real-world stereotypes and discrimination associated with them. A good rule of thumb for Halloween: culture is not a costume. Another huge area sociologists analyze is the gender and sexualization of Halloween costumes, especially as you transition from childhood to being a teenager. Have you ever walked down the Halloween aisle at a store? The socialization of gender roles is glaringly obvious. For boys and men, costumes are usually marketed around themes of power, humor, or fear. You'll see scary monster, gory zombie, or buff superhero. But for girls and women, almost every costume gets slapped with the word sexy. You've seen them: the sexy nurse, the sexy cop, the sexy referee, and yes, even things that make no sense, like a sexy minion or a sexy box of French fries. Sociologists study this because it reflects society's hypersexualization of women and girls. From a young age, media and consumer culture teach girls that their value is tied to their physical appearance, while boys are taught their value comes from strength or actions. By the time you hit high school, peer pressure kicks in, and choosing a costume becomes a balancing act of navigating these intense social expectations. But gender and identity aren't the only structural forces hiding in the costume aisle. We also have to look at Halloween through the lens of global capitalism. Today, Halloween is a multi-billion-dollar industry driven by fast fashion. Think about it. You walk into a pop-up store, drop $50 or $60 on a costume, wear it for exactly 4 hours to a party, and then what? It usually gets tossed into a closet or the trash. If you look at the tags on those costumes, you'll see they are almost entirely made of polyester. Polyester isn't just fabric. It's a synthetic plastic fiber derived from petroleum. That means millions of people are participating in a massive global supply chain where cheap, single-use plastics are mass-produced by multinational corporations, shipped around the world, and sold at a massive markup. Sociologists look at this and ask, who bears the true cost? While corporations make record profits, the environmental and economic burden of all that non-recyclable textile waste is pushed onto global landfills and local communities. Fast fashion has successfully transformed an historical community ritual into a giant engine for consumer waste. So why do we keep celebrating Halloween despite all these complex social layers? Because Halloween creates massive social cohesion. It's one of the few times an entire community breaks down social barriers. Neighbors who never talk to each other suddenly open their doors. Teenagers, kids, and adults all participate in the same collective ritual. It builds a sense of solidarity and fun in an otherwise busy and disconnected world. Halloween is way more than just a holiday. It's a living, breathing sociological case study. It shows us how traditions evolve, how we navigate our identities, how global capitalism shapes our shopping habits, and where our society still struggles with issues of respect and gender equity. The next time you pick out a costume or dig through a bowl of candy, remember, you're participating in a massive social institution. Halloween is a living mirror of our society. The choices we make about what to wear and what not to wear aren't just random individual decisions. They're shaped by centuries of cultural transmission, deep-seated gender socialization, corporate marketing, and evolving boundaries around cultural respect. By looking at a simple night of trick-or-treating through a sociological lens, we can see exactly how our collective values, biases, and desires for social connection play out in real time.